Matt Gwynn, also known as the Mighty Quinn, first made his mark in Cleveland, Ohio, working for PD Chuck Dunaway at WIXY AM and later in San Diego at KCBQ AM. But what about Texas? When Matt arrived at Houston's KILT AM, program director Bill Young wanted him to use Michael as his on-air handle. Matt refused. Bill capitulated and said, "I tell you what, Matt, we'll call you Matt Quinn, the Mighty Quinn." Who knew that Bill Young was such a Bob Dylan fan? Later, Matt moved from KILT to KRBE, where he held down an air shift and served as production director. A sign on his desk read, "All sales orders must be in by 3 p.m. or they won't go on the log the next day." Matt graced the airwaves from the late 60s through the 80s. He is now retired and divides his time between his home in Bel Air and his ranch in Crockett. Please welcome to the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, Matt Gwynn.
Well, it's been a long time. Actually, I began in radio at a radio station in Nacogdoches, Texas. My brother was in the business before I was, and J.C. Stallings was the manager. And I was a drummer. I played the drums. I wanted to be like Gene Krupa or Buddy Rich or whatever. I wanted to be in the big bands and play the drums. And that's why I have a hearing loss. I'm a disc jockey screaming and hollering, but I'm also playing the drums. But anyway, as a drummer, I got bored and I got tired. And I said, I would like to be on the radio. So I got on the radio, and they let me use, now Key Radio had a strange sound to it. It was KEEE 1230 Nacogdoches. And I got to where I could say, Key Radio, KEEE 1230 Nacogdoches. And the manager heard me saying that. He said, you know, that kid's got a voice. And he said, I want to try to put him on the air. So after working every weekend, just doing between logos, good music, bad music, or whatever they did on Sunday or during a baseball game or whatever, he said, I'm going to put you on the radio, Matt. I said, okay. I thought, oh, wow, here's my chance now. Yeah, I'll do it. Yes, J.C., I'd like, now J.C. had a big, deep voice. Hey, Matt, and he was a Marine Corps drill sergeant in World War II, a big man, and he owned Key Radio. Matt, I'm going to put you on the air. And I said, J.C., yes, J.C., I'll try to do my best. That's, actually, somewhere in that range from where I am now. But anyway, I said, yes, J.C., I'll try it. Bill Neff put me on the air middays, and he started, we had records back then, not cartridges, but the cartridges were on, if you listen to one of the things that you watch and think about whether you buy this product or not, they were on cartridges. So I started to say something, sat down, and the cartridge came on right about the time I was going to speak. And at that time, they put a little piece of metal on that cartridge that would spin around. You can see some of them here. Maybe they use them today. I don't know. I doubt it, though. And the cartridge ended, and I started to say something, and the cartridge, the advertisement came back on, and I said, oh, my God, blankety blank, 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 blank. It ran through. Then I look down, and the microphone's on, and I go, oh, boy. I'm thinking, well, there goes my radio career. Well, at least I can play the drums. And actually, I was trying to play the drums as, I had an all-state drummer, and I had a scholarship playing the drums, but this was during the Vietnam War, and my father and some of his friends, my father was an attorney at law, said, Matt, if your lottery number comes up high, we're going to get you in Annapolis, and you're going to have to be in the Navy band for 12 years, but you'll be playing the drums if we can get you in, and maybe you won't have to go to Vietnam. I said, Dad, I'll do what I can. Anyway, I'm playing the drums, but I wanted to be a radio announcer. When I was getting tired of playing the drums. I couldn't be Buddy Rich or Gene Krupa or any of the big bands because they were all gone, you know. And well, and all these rock and roll drummers, they didn't play like Buddy Rich or Gene Krupa or any of those. They were what we call blacksmiths. They would beat on the drums. Bam, 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 bam. No. That's the way, you know, real drummers sound. But anyway, JC came in the studio. And after that record ran through, I said, well, I'm going to give them hell or heck, whatever you say nowadays. Well, back then we'd say heck. Anyway, you'd say, I'm going to give them heck. And now, the Four Tops and Baby, I Need Your Lovin'. The record came on and I said, well, maybe he won't fire me. He heard me, he liked soul music or whatever. JC came in and said, Matt, I don't know what you're doing, young man, but you've got a job. And so anyway, that was my first radio station. And J.C. Stallings was the general manager. Johnny Shannon, who went to New York City, also worked with my brother at KVLB in Cleveland, Texas. And Tom McLean, later got into the real estate business. Then I moved on because I flunked out of not a Key Radio, but I flunked out of Nacogdoches because I was playing the drums as a scholarship, and I got on the radio and I stopped studying, but I didn't study very much anyhow. I was bored with, you know, but I had to go back to I had to stay in college or they would take me to Vietnam. Anyway, I went to KLBK, Lubbock, Texas. Herb Harding, the general manager. Casey Jones. Wow, what a name. He worked at Cliff in Dallas. Back in the old days of Gordon McClendon, and the kilts were what women wore back then. Not men, not women, you know, dressed up like, not Irishmen, but Scottish. The big 610 KILT, but I wasn't part of Kilt Radio, but Casey Jones was. He was J. Walter Beethoven on the air back then, but he was Casey Jones, a program director at KLBK. Anyway, I went to work with Casey. Casey started teaching me a lot and allowed me to be the director of playing the records and telling them what to play, the music director, along with being an all-night, not all night, but afternoon, nighttime disc jockey. And of course, I would scream and holler, yeah, baby, here it is, yes! And I'd get, you know, nighttime disc jockeys talk real loud. Now, here's the Rolling Stones. Let's go get them. Go get them. This football team's going to do a great time. You talk real loud and everything. Then that was a time when you're young and stupid. But anyway, I went on to radio station KTHT, Demand Radio 79 in Houston. And it was a chicken rock radio station. I heard a little bitty young girl talk about chicken rock. And I said, I haven't heard the word chicken rock in a long time. Anyway, chicken rock is where you Frank Sinatra, and now here's blah, 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 blah. And these were, you know, songs that you would listen to, but they weren't real rock and roll. And Bill Bossy was a general manager. Nat Stevens was the program director. So I decided to go back into rock and roll radio. And I heard that Cleveland, Ohio, WIXY, Gene Taylor, who built WLS and also ABC TV. I mean, he was a general manager, and Chuck Dunaway. All of us heard of Chuck. You know, come on. If you didn't know radio, you didn't know Chuck Dunaway. Chuck, I called him up. Hey, Chuck, would you hire me, Chuck? And this, that, and the other. And he said, well, Matt, send me an air check. I had one where Bill Young had recorded me, and Bill wanted to hire me, but he didn't have anything open. But anyway, Dunaway was good. No, we'll listen to it. When Chuck didn't hire me right away, George Klein called me, and he said, Matt, this is George Klein. I said, George? He said, yes, I'm Elvis Presley's best friend. Oh, wow. And he said, would like to hire you. Afternoon drive. Anyway, Chuck called me up. I don't want you to go to see Elvis Presley. We hired me at Wixie. Anyway, things got better and better. Then I moved from cold Chuck Dunaway in Cleveland, Ohio, to KCBQ in San Diego. Hap Trout was the general manager. Jack McCoy, the last contest that went all over the country for several years, and the FCC blacked it out, would say, now on that radio station, KCBQ, you could win a helicopter, or you can win a hubcap for a Rolls Royce. You can actually win that Rolls Royce. But anyway, that radio station went away, and Bill Young hired me at KILT. Dickie Rosenfeld was the general manager. And of course, Bill Young was the program director. Bill was the one that said, it's not Matt Gwynn, you're going to be Matt Quinn, because your brother uses the name Gwynn and you need to change your name. We'll just put your name as Michael. I said, Bill, I don't want to be Michael. He said, well, okay, you're the Mighty Quinn. That's how I got that name. So KRBE came around, and Bob Fauser from New York took over as general manager. Clay Gish, production director. And I left. Bill Young wanted me to be the program director of another radio station, and Ron Foster got the job. I didn't. So Bill said, well, I don't have a place for you now. We were ready for you to move over there. And then anyway, it all happened. Almost out of time. We're past time. Okay. Anyway, I was the radio announcer for KRB, and I want to say quickly, I want to thank Jay McLean, my brother Royce Gwynn Jr., who's passed away, Barry and Lisa Kay, Eric Chase, John Rook, Paul Kirby, Tom Beck, John Gilliland, Jan Conlon of the Skipper KTRK 13, and my beloved late wife, Connie D. Benning. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm so long-winded about it. But disc jockeys like to talk. Come on.